Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gilbert, and on behalf of Vroman's Bookstore, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us for our virtual event with Deka Herman in conversation with Gail Villanueva as they discuss Deka's new book, Hide and Seeker. We're extremely excited to have them both here and thankful that we can bring you these virtual events. As a reminder, for those of you that live locally, Vroman's is currently open daily from 10:30 to 6 p.m. with strict health guidelines in place. So we encourage you to visit the store, or you can shop at vromansbookstore.com and help keep a Pasadena literary touchstone in business. Vroman's will continue to host virtual events for the foreseeable future, and you can learn more about them on our website as well as our social media. Our next event is Monday, October 5th at 6 p.m. as we host Nathan Marsack discussing his book, Bunker Hill, Los Angeles, Essence of Sunshine and Noir. For regular updates on upcoming Vroman's live events, please feel free to subscribe to our newsletter. Now, today's virtual event will have a Q&A component. So to submit a question, please use the Ask a Question button at the bottom of the screen right over here. If you see a question on the list that you'd like for our speakers to answer, click on the like button, which is the little arrow on the side, and we'll try to answer as many questions as time will allow. Also, if you'd like to purchase a copy of today's featured book, you can click on the Buy Hide and Seeker button directly below the screen here. That will redirect you to the Vroman's Bookstore website, and you can process there for curbside pickup or ship to home. Now, with that, let me introduce our interviewer and author. Our interviewer today is Gail D. Villanueva. She is a Filipino author born and based in the Philippines. She's also a web designer and an entrepreneur. She loves pineapple pizza, seafood, and chocolate, but not in a single dish together, because you. Gail and her husband live in the outskirts of Manila with their dogs, ducks, turtles, cats, and one friendly but lonesome chicken. Her debut novel, My Fate, According to the Butterfly, was named a Best Book of the Year by Kirkus Reviews and a NCSS CBC Notable Social Studies Trade Book for Young People. Gail's next book, Sugar and Spite, will be published by Scholastic in spring of 2021. Deka Herman was born in Tennessee and spent her childhood huddled under a blanket with a flashlight, reading and writing fairy tale and fantasy stories. She graduated from Agnes Scott College with a bachelor's degree in English literature and creative writing. She works in the entertainment industry and is an active member of the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. She loves sweet tea, chocolate, cupcakes, and collecting superhero toys and paraphernalia. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Deka and Gail. Good afternoon.
Hi.
Hi,
Good
everybody.
afternoon. Good morning to everyone in my time zone though.
Yes.
It's 4 a.m. where Gail is right now, everyone. So thank you, Gail, so much for being here with me.
It's my pleasure. I love this book. And Deka, can you tell us a little about the Hide and Seeker? What's it about? Because I read this book and it's amazing. It's how can I say this? It's like a great mix of horror, and at the same time it has a lot of heart. And that's pretty rare. And can you tell us a little about it? Like what's it about? So for people who hasn't read it yet, they'd know what your book what Hide and Seeker is all about.
So it's about a group of kids who go to a welcome home party for a friend who mysteriously disappeared. And during the party, they play a game of hide and seek. And the next day, one of the kids has disappeared, and then another kid disappears, and they realize that something is hunting them, and they have to figure out who is hunting them and why before they all disappear. And I have to tell you, I didn't start out trying to write a horror novel. It was supposed to be Goonies or like a mystery adventure. But as I continued to write and continued to submit it to different places, they told me I was writing a horror and that horror was really, really popular with kids and I should go for it. So I went for it, and this is how you get Hide and Seeker.
Yeah, it's like it's really pretty cool that you mentioned that about not writing it horror initially. Yeah, because I stayed with Deka when I was there in the US, and one of the things that she might have noticed is that I usually keep a light on or like the blinds open because like I'm like a real scaredy cat. And that's the
Me
thing
too.
about hide and seeker. I'm a total scaredy cat, but I loved it. And it probably it's because of the it's not just a plain like it's not just a story that's gonna scare you. It hits you right here, right in the heart. It's like the feelings about it. So I just wonder, Dave, how did you feel when you first saw the cover? Because when I saw the cover and you showed it to me, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so great. So I want to know your reaction to it.
I was terrified when I saw the cover because I am a big scaredy cat too, and I can scare myself when I'm by myself. And people, probably some of the people on the chat know that I don't really like scary movies. I have nightmares after them. I'll have to sleep with the lights on. So when I initially saw the cover, I remember exactly where I was. I was in a parking lot in Santa Monica, and I received an email from my editor, and it says, "So happy to show you this cover." And I stopped and I was like, okay, just kind of take a deep breath. Like, hopefully you're going to love this cover. And I opened up the email and I saw the cover and I gasped. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is too scary. Like, no, 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 this is not going to work. It's too scary. And I initially emailed my dad and I was like, please take a look at this. I think it's too scary. And he took a look at it and he loved it. He's like, this is amazing. I love it. And then I emailed one of my sisters who's a teacher. Oh, yeah. And I was like, no, no. And I was like, I think it's too scary. I think it's going to scare the kids.
Scary.
And she's like, no, kids want to be scared. They like horror and this will immediately catch their attention. So it took me probably a good half of that day to get over my fear of the cover. And so I still I have it up behind me now, and my friend got me this giant picture of it, but I can't keep it in my room because I feel like I'll wake up in the middle of the night and see that and be afraid. So I have to say the cover itself is brilliant. Stephanie Yang and Marcella Bolivia, I think I'm pronouncing that right, did the cover and they nailed it. And so then my fear was, I hope the book is as scary as the cover. So it seems like people are pretty scared. So I'm happy that it worked out. But yeah, initially I was terrified, but I was also the one thing I really wanted for the cover is to have a Black kid on the cover. I wanted that picture to reflect the characters in the book, because we don't really get to see ourselves on book covers. So I was really excited that they did that and they got it right. And they Justin has locks in his hair and that's exactly who I wanted to see. So I couldn't be more pleased with it. Is that your computer?
Yeah, it's my iPad.
Okay.
Actually, you know what? When I first saw your book cover, it was like I'm scared. I'm like really really scared, especially with the creature behind the lettering. But part of me is also a graphic designer, so I was like, it's part scary for me and part in awe. Like as a professionally, it was like, oh wow. But as a reader, oh my gosh, this is scary. So
They
yeah,
nailed it. They did a
it's
great job.
mixed feelings for me, but it's mostly like, wow, this is great. This is gonna like fly off the shelves. And
Thank
when
you.
I read it, it was like even more amazing. And like when you see it's not every day that you see a cover with the book that actually delivers. And your
Oh,
book
thank you.
really delivers. Like I really love it.
Oh.
And I'm just saying that because I'm your friend, okay? I'm like really picky when it comes to horror books. And this one, guys, you need to get this. It's actually one of the greatest books that I've read so far, and it
Oh,
got
thank
me
you.
out of my reading slump. I've been having a reading slump for the past with all the deadlines and everything. But after I read this book, it's just so inspiring that you want to get back to reading again. And I'm so glad I read it. So, speaking of which, I'm wondering if let's make it a little bit more fun. Like, there are many games that we played as kids. So, why did you pick hide and seeker in particular to focus on for this book?
Well, I think one of my best childhood memories is playing hide and seek with my friends. and my sisters, my cousins, and we usually played at my grandmother's house in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And it was like the best day ever because we would play for like hours sometimes. We'd play until it got dark, and then the lightning bugs, we call them lightning bugs, I know some people call them fireflies, came out, and then we would run around the neighborhood trying to catch those. But this is something that I think like everyone could play. It didn't take anything, any gadgets or anything to play. You were just out there with your friends. And I thought I wanted to really capture that, but I also started thinking about the game. And I don't know why I started thinking about the game, but you're literally hunting kids, which is a little creepy if you think about it. Like you're hiding and then you're trying to race and capture these kids. So I wanted to do that. And also the chant that we used while we were playing, which is the chant in the book. No one that I've talked to knows where it originated from. And that it was just so creepy really caught my attention. And so so the story sort of started with that chant and with that game of like, where did this come from? Why did we say something so creepy when we were like basically hunting these kids? And then that kind of led to Hide and Seeker.
Oh, speaking of which, do you mind like giving us an excerpt, like a preview about it? Like, because like when I read this chant, it was literally like a chant in my head. It wasn't like the usual like it's not just like reading a simple passage. It was like a song, like a chant, like something really creepy. And I'm like, why are these kids saying this? This is like so different from the hide and seek that we played as a kid, which is like it's really boring. We're just gonna count 1 to 10. You just gotta hide before the 10 is up, or you gotta get caught if you haven't found your hiding place yet. When the seeker counts to 10 already. So I'm wondering like would you like to give us, because it would be great to have like to hear it from you, like the author who wrote it, because I had I had an idea of how it sounds like in my head, but I would love to hear you like how you imagine. Yeah.
I would love to. I will read a quick excerpt of when we first hear the chant and when they first start to play the game, and it's in on chapter 2. So everybody bear with me as I read this. Okay. So I give everyone a moment to strategize as I walk over to the lonely oak tree standing between the sagging back porch and the snack tables. Its limbs droop from heat exhaustion. I slide my hat around so the brim is facing the back, close my eyes, and rest my head on folded arms. The rough bark makes small imprints in my skin. A bee buzzes around my head, and the sound matches the odd static that fills my ears. I mentally shake myself and focus on the game. I went up the hill was muddy, stomped my toe and made it bloody. Should I wash it? I yell. Yes, the players shout from different directions as they start searching for their hiding places. The hot wind pants through the trees and dead leaves shower down upon me. I went up the hill was muddy, stomped my toe and made it bloody. Should I wash it? Yes, I recognize Carla and Lyric's voices. They're still looking for a hiding spot. I went up the hill was muddy, stomped my toe and made it bloody. Should I wash it? The backyard is eerily silent. It's holding its breath. No responses. They're ready. I lift my head and slowly turn around. Brown, brittle grass and wild weeds peekaboo out of the thirsty ground. Candy and ice cream wrappers chase each other like tumbleweeds. The hunt begins.
Oh wow, that was creepy.
So yeah, so that chant itself, and even recently I went back home and I asked a couple of my cousins, why did we say that? And where did it come from? And nobody knows. So I think that mystery too is just a little part of the book and the game itself, because I don't know why we said it or where it came from.
Gosh, I just like literally had like goosebumps when we first like read the chant, because I had an idea in my head, but it wasn't that creepy. Now that I heard, oh, wow. That's it. Amazing. Thank you, Deika. I guess we have a question. What inspired you to write this book, from Emily? I think more or less we covered that, but would you like to address it specifically?
Oh yeah. So again, it's like just my childhood memories of playing with my friends and my cousins and playing that game. And we played a lot of other games. And actually, I can share like in the first couple drafts of the of hide and seeker when I was writing it a long time ago, there were other games in that draft of the book that we played. So freeze tag, red light, green light, those were all other games I incorporated. They didn't make it into this draft of the book, but playing those games outside with my friends and family, or just it's just some of my best memories. We had so much fun playing together outside. So I kind of wanted to write a book about that experience in those games.
Perfect. Like, okay, another thing that I love about your book is that we start with Justin, and then we meet Nia, and then we see Lyric, and then it just keeps expanding. And the funny thing is, it like I'm really bad with names, but for some reason I get to remember them. Like even if the cast is expanding, um, how did you come up with these characters? Were they named after people that you actually know in real life?
Some of them are, and I have to say, Shay, who is the sort of, I don't want to give too much away. Shay, everyone knows who Shay is early, who she shows up and who she becomes. Shay is my sister, my youngest sister, and she's not evil like she is in the book. She has moments that are similar, but she's not evil at all. So I have to make that clear because she's like, please make people know that I'm not a bad person. She's not a bad person. I just, for some reason, when I was thinking about that character, had my sister in my head. And so that's Shay. Carla is a childhood friend who I haven't seen since probably elementary school, but she was one of my friends. I was sort of, I consider myself like a awkward kid, still sort of awkward. And I had a few close friends, and she was one of the close friends I had, and we rode the bus to school together. And I, again, haven't talked to her in years, but she's always someone in the back of my head that I remember favorably from my childhood. And I tend to start, when I'm writing the book, I'll have names for the characters, but they might change after I start hearing the characters' voices. So Z was initially Mutt. I think Nia was Tasha at one point. I can't remember who Lyric was. But as I start writing the books, they start sounding differently. And so their names will change for me. And sometimes I could confuse myself. But so, yeah, so some of the characters are based off people. I tend to do that. And other ones are just names that come to me as I'm writing. They just sort of tell me this is what their names are. And so I just kind of go with that.
Oh, that's pretty interesting. Yeah, there's some characters that their names just doesn't fit for them, so you have to like wait for it to come to you. So we have another question. This one from Andrea. How long did it take you to write this out? To write the hide and seeker?
It took years. I think the initial idea I started working on was probably 2006. I had the idea, and Emily, who asked the first question, she would know because I think she was around when that happened. I started working on it, and then I put it away, and I wrote a YA novel, and I wrote something else, and then this one just kept coming back to me, like, no, you have to finish this story. The characters just kept talking to me, so I can say that I really started focusing on it probably about 6 or 7 years ago, where I stopped worrying about all the other books that I was writing and focused on this. And it went through a million drafts and has changed so much since the initial version of it. But it took me a while to get it to this. And I'm happy that it took so long because I learned so much with all of those drafts, and it really helped me.
Okay, can you tell us a little bit about your writing process? Like, how do you start from idea to actual draft, and then from editing? How do you like? Because I'm pretty sure we have like authors in the audience, and they would love to know how you write and come up with stories.
And I always feel like the way I write or come up with things are slightly odd. Sometimes I'll hear someone say something, or I'll see a picture and it'll just spark a thought. And I have journals, 50 billion of them, so behind me, and I will just write the idea down. And I don't write in order. So I can write a chapter at the end of the book or in the middle of the book before the beginning of the book. So whenever I can hear a conversation clearly, I just start with that. And then I end up sort of piecing things together. And I've tried to write outlines. and I can have a loose version of one, but for some reason they don't really work for me. I just need to just start writing and then just let it lead me where it's going to go. But again, it could be a random chapter in the book that's later, and then I'll come back and add it in. So I feel like I'm just all over the place. I'll have the general idea, but there's just sort of no rhyme or reason of how I get it on the page.
I'm totally the same. Don't worry.
Okay.
I'm totally like that. Like I guess that's why I use Scrivener. It's like a writing app because like
I've
it's
tried
pretty.
that. I can't.
Yeah, it's still not as very. You're worse than I am.
Yeah, I can't use Scrivener.
I have like a
Literally.
semblance of organization compared to you.
No. I've tried to do note cards. I've tried to get the giant banner paper and like plot it out. And no, I just need to have pieces of paper and like little lines of dialogue on different things. And then I just kind of put it all together.
Yeah, you're less organized than I am. I'm actually more organized. It's like kind of nice to know. Oh, we have a question again this time. Will your next book be a middle grade novel as well?
No,
This one is from Luvera.
Oh,
Lureva.
Lou. I think the next one will be a horror. I started working on something. I have a middle grade contemporary that I've sort of put aside for now, but I think the next one is going to surprisingly be a horror. Because again, I'm a big scaredy cat. So the fact that I'm concentrating on horror right now is surprising even me. But a lot of people seem to want more horror, so I'm gonna try. Keep going.
Oh, awesome. I'm gonna wait for that.
Okay.
Like from now on, I'm like the Dacre Herman horror is going to be my.
Never would have imagined that to be said.
Barometer for great horror books, because actually I love it because I also enjoy like horror, not just plain horror. The way that you wrote the book is like it's more than that. Like you get to know like the background of Justin, and it's pretty heartbreaking. And you know what? The only time that I actually said that I felt heartbroken over something in a horror media is like, do you know that like this Korean movie Train to Busan is like about zombies, but at the same time it's like like it's horror, right? But the funny thing about it is that there's like it made me cry. Like that's so weird, right? I mean, it's a horror movie that made you cry. So I love that kind of horror that makes you feel not just fear, but other feelings as well. And yeah, so I just hope everybody who's like watching is gonna like pick up your book after this, because folks, you're missing a lot if you're not if you haven't read it yet.
Oh. Well, and now that you have another question, I was going to tell you. Well,
yeah, we have another question. This one is from Ashvan Otherloo. How did you come up with your creepy villain? Was there any inspiration or fears of your own that informed it?
The villain who also changed. I actually have, and I won't share it now because maybe it'll be something later. There was a whole backstory for the Seeker of why he became the Seeker. But as I was writing the book, the element of the fears, because I feel like we all have fears, and Justin particularly, I think is I'm closer to him, his fear. My mom also died of cancer. I was much older, but that was still something that has really, really affected me. Something that really I still deal with. You don't ever get over it. So Justin's fear, it was sort of personal of having to deal with that. And I think once I got that in my head, building other fears. So all the fears in the book I feel like all the characters in the book reflect me in some way, Justin more so than anyone else. But all of those fears in the book are sort of something that maybe I've had a fear of, or I know someone who's had a fear of. And I wanted to sort of portray that we all have our fears and we all have something to kind of work through. And for me, since I didn't set out writing in the horror, it was more about friends helping each other and working through something together and then overcoming something. And then it sort of just went down this path I wasn't expecting of these kids all were all battling their fears and having to come together to sort of fight this giant fear that was out to get them, that was feeding off this fear that they were having. So I think fear was just big because I again, like this right here, having this conversation, public speaking is a huge fear of mine. So it's like every day I'm having to overcome things and push myself out of my comfort zone. And I wanted kids to see that you can get through things, you can deal with things, and sometimes they're really hard. They're grief, they're loss, they're being alone, they're someone growing old like Nia, or you forgetting things. But when you have like really true friendships and even looking within yourself, you can overcome it, you can deal with it, and it's okay to not be okay. So I think that
love
was
that.
an important message that I wanted to put out
I
there.
Yeah, I think that's related to the question from Brooks. He's asking, I'm nearly finished reading Hide and Seeker and loving it. I'm so glad.
Oh
My
yay, thanks, Brooke.
question, my question is, if you were taken by the Seeker, what would your big fear be and how would you battle it? That's an interesting question. Yeah, and more or less address it, but what would be the biggest fear? Like, kind of like the fear that would manifest.
Okay, well, I think I was thinking about this too. My two biggest fears are I hate snakes. Like, I mean, I can't even see them on television. Like, I can't. I don't know. There's just weird fear. Something happened in my childhood where there was one by a tree, and I was playing with kids, and then it just kind of like tried to strike me, and I just remember running up the hill screaming. And so I've always had this horrible fear of snakes, and I just think they're just. And I'm sorry for anyone who has a pet snake. I'm so sorry, but I think they're like evil and creepy, and so it probably manifests itself in a giant snake trying to, like a boa constrictor, like suffocate me. The other fear, again, it really is public speaking and speaking in front of a lot of people. When I was younger, a lot of people might not know that I have they said I have a speech impediment. I have a lisp that in school they would take me and a couple other kids out of the classroom and we would go practice our speech. But then I always had this sort of awareness that all the other kids knew that I had to be taken out of school to practice my speech. And so sometimes when I'm in front of a group of people, it's like I feel like they're looking at me and they know that about me. And so I have trouble sort of communicating, or there's this pause, or it's like you just feel like in my head there's this judgment because I can hear other people speak all fluently, and I'm like, I wish I could do that, but I have like this anxiety of speaking in public. So I think that would be another fear that the Seeker would sort of use against me, of where I have to say something correctly to save all of these kids, millions of kids. I'm standing in front of them and I cannot get the words out, or what I say is not correct. And so I end up like sentencing all these kids to doom and gloom because I couldn't speak the way I would want to speak. So I think those would be my two biggest fears that the Seeker would use against me.
I totally get you, like especially with the snakes. Like oh gosh, like just a story, like a side story, like I remember like the year before we met. It was, I think, exactly around the year we met. There was my husband and I found this snake growing underneath our kitchen sink. Oh my god.
Mhm.
Yeah, we found out like after midnight and we were like screaming. Like screaming our heads off, like our neighbors like going out, what's happening, why are you screaming? And we were like, there's a snake inside. And like the only thing we had to do was like call somebody to actually take the snake. It's like, there was no way we were not touching it because it was kind of like big. It was, I think, this thick already.
No. Okay.
Yeah, and it was so scary because we have like ducks, right? So I was like so worried about my pets, and thankfully at night they stay in this night pen, so they're perfectly safe at that time. But I was like so worried. Oh my gosh, how many times did this snake pass by the cage and like seeing my ducks, scaring my ducks, and like the idea of it like in the kitchen for how many months, and we had no idea it was there. It's like, Oh gosh, that was like really scary. It gave me nightmares literally for like 2 months at least. And it made me totally forget that I was on submission for my fate according to the butterfly. That's why I wasn't like that worried when I was on sub because of that
You,
snake.
because you
And
were thinking about the snake. Well,
yeah, I
I
was
know
thinking,
like anytime I hear stories about snakes being found in like toilets or have gotten free, then it's like, okay, well, what I can't. So I have to have the lid down, I have to have the light on when I go. Like I just cannot imagine. That's like the biggest fear ever of like one getting loose or getting free or being near me. I just can't do it.
actually like I had a feeling that you had a fear of snakes as well when I read like Hide and Seeker, because the way that you described it is exactly the way I feel whenever I see or like see a picture of a snake or
Hmm.
yeah, the girl, am I allowed to say her name, like who has a
Sure.
snake fear?
Yes.
Mary.
Yes. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
Mary,
Oof.
yeah. One of the characters there, Mary, she has a fear of snakes, but at the same time she also fears rats, so it's like rat snake.
Right.
It's
And Mary is my mother's name. And so sorry for I forgot. I should have said that. And she was
like,
different in the other book, but yeah, Mary is my mom. I try to reference her as many times as I can, even though she didn't turn out to be the greatest character, did she, in this book? But my mom was awesome. Sorry.
yeah, I was speaking of which, since we both have fears of snakes, I don't think like we were able to answer like Brooke's next question. How would you battle it? How would you battle this fear? That's a hard one, Brooks. I'm telling you. I'm like,
Yeah, I don't
I'm
know.
gonna
I mean, it's such an intense fear of snakes, particularly. I don't know how I would, if there's a way to battle it from a distance and I have tons of weapons that I can use. Um, I mean, like Mary's fear in even writing that one of like of having to battle it, that was a hard one for me to write. Just that part, just because again, I have this fear of snakes, and I don't know how I would battle a fear. Hopefully, there would be some kind of formula that I could spray from a long way away, and that it would just kill the snake. And I wouldn't have to go physically one on one because I don't. They're just they're slimy or cold, and the scales, and I don't want to ever have to touch one. So I wouldn't have to be anything that I would have to be engaged with a snake. It needs to be something very magical that would help me kill this snake. Sorry,
yes.
brother. I can't. I don't know how. So maybe I would just lose. I might just lose this battle if I have to fight.
Oh, well, I'm gonna lose it with you, so at least we'll lose it together. We won't be lonely losing. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's totally fine. So speaking of fears, like one of the things that I'm gonna start side eyeing now are ice cream trucks because of your book. So um, I'm wondering, is there a reason why you incorporated ice cream trucks in your book?
I guess there's two reasons because I love ice cream and I love like getting treats. So that's one thing. But we had, and I think everybody had probably like a neighborhood ice cream person. Um, and we had one who came, well, and this was mostly in my grandma's neighborhood. We had a couple that came around, and sometimes they're a little creepy. So it's not like, the really nice vans with the perfect stickers, but you get the truck that's like rusty and you can't even read some of the stickers that are on them. And the person who's giving out the ice creams might be questionable. So I also started thinking of in an earlier draft, what's a good way that someone could get to kids? And I thought an ice cream person, an ice cream man, because most kids initially, when they hear that jingle, they're running for that truck. So that was a perfect way for someone, if they wanted to take kids, to bring kids to them. You wouldn't even really have to hunt for them. They would just naturally come to you. So that sort of like sparked the idea of the ice cream man being involved. And again, in a different draft, he was older, and in one draft he was actually even a good guy, and something else happened. But in this one, I thought it was not giving too much away, I thought if you had someone who would be involved in helping someone take kids, that would be the most innocent role you could have, and something that kids would naturally want to have, that would draw you in. And then I started looking at ice cream trucks, and then that became like another thing that I wanted to start collecting in my toys. So, but I don't know. I'm always fascinated with them, and they all have different songs and melodies, and they all look different. But most people have the same reaction of like, "Yay, ice cream! I want it." But what if you really didn't want it? What if there's something behind that truck? You never know.
Yeah, that's a good answer. And yeah, I agree with Sabrina. Ice cream trucks can be creepy now that I think about it.
Right? If you really think about
It's
it.
even gonna get creepier after you read Hide and Seeker. So we have another question, but I'm gonna ask Amy's question first. What's your favorite ice cream flavor?
Oh, everybody knows chocolate. Anything chocolate, chocolate, chocolate would be my favorite. Double chocolate chip, chocolate fudge, any dark chocolate, but mostly it needs to involve some kind of chocolate or be chocolate covered. And then then the ice cream man would totally get me. If he's like, "Here, come get all the chocolate you want," I'd be all over that truck. That'd be it.
Oh, that's so true. Like when I was there in with Deka, it was also her birthday. So when I went out with my cousin, my second cousin, she brought me to what was that? The one
Which
with the
place?
cubano. The one that
Oh, Porto's. We went to
yeah,
Porto's and stocked
yeah.
up on like treats. Yes. Yes.
And then
Lots of-
when I was there, the lady who was preparing the box for me that I was gonna give Deka, she was like, "Oh, what chocolate? What else do you want that has chocolate? Do you want this? This has chocolate too. Yeah, sure, get it. Anything chocolate." And she was
and I ate it
surprised.
all. Yeah.
She was
Anything
so
chocolate.
surprised. Like, you seem to like chocolate. Yeah, I do. And the person I'm gonna give it to loves chocolate as well. So it's perfect. Fine. Give me all the chocolate that you have.
It is my weakness and my treat for myself, as much chocolate as I can have.
Yeah, you're totally gonna be like kidnapped. Yeah, like if
For the
somebody.
chocolate, I would. Yes.
So let's move on to Laurie's question. Who are some of your greatest literary influences? Who did you love to read as a kid and now as an adult?
Some of my books. So I was thinking of like some of the literary books. I of course I love like Chronicle of Narnia, Wrinkle in Time. I was reading one of my favorite books is Count of Monte Cristo. I was, because the thing is, I wasn't reading horror. Like occasionally I would read like a Goosebumps books, but that wasn't where my focus was. I was the one who would go get like a Sweet Valley High book of like something happy and cheery first before I would go into like a mystery. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones that I.
Oh, Sweet Valley High, I think, has the horror version. Like they have
Oh,
special
I
edition.
skipped that.
You
I
didn't
skipped that
skip
one.
the special
Yeah.
edition.
I think what really started me, I love Chronicle of Narnia, and I remember reading that one several times. And I just remember any kind of book, and I can't even name them all, that I would just, like my mom would drop me off at the library or like at a bookstore, and I would just sit on the floor and just grab a book and read it and read it. And so I think that's what led to my English lit major, because I loved reading Shakespeare in school, the tragedies. I was more, and which is weird now I think about it. Why did I like tragedies over the comedies? But I don't know. I focused on the Shakespeare tragedies. I liked Hamlet. I liked Romeo and Juliet. I liked Catcher in the Rye. So I was just reading lots of different things, and I loved it. I just love. First of all, I love holding the book. I loved like flipping through the pages. I love the smell of books. I love being surrounded by books. So I think overall, it was just any literary work I pretty much was reading or trying to read or attempting to read, even if I didn't quite understanding. It's just having my eyes go through those words on the page just really attracted me for some reason.
It's like your taste, is it any different from when you were kids? Like when you were a kid as compared to now?
No, I think it's still. I still read a lot of. I like a lot of well, not mystery. I love fantasy. Um, I love a lot of fantasy books because again, I like sci-fi and fantasy. People know I like comics. My love of like Marvel and all things Star Wars. Um, so I think that is something that attracts me. I love magical realism too. I love the magic aspect of writing that. So it's very eclectic. I think I can be all over the place. And it also can depend on my mood or just something somebody suggests to me that I'm like, sure, I'll read it, and I just find something else that I like.
Yeah, that's another thing that we have like in common. Like I love fantasy as well. It's like
I love
there's something
fantasy.
about having magic in a story. Like
Mhm.
it just comes alive for some reason, even though it's not real in real life. So it's like really amazing. So going back to a hide and seeker, like of all your characters, I think personally I'm the most similar to Lyric. I feel like he's funny and at the same time he's pretty logical. So even though everyone's panicking already, he's yeah can he can still look at it in a logical manner. And funnily enough, I'm kind of like that. Like there was this time when we had a flood, in a major flood in our area. The water came up until like chest deep. So like I can't swim, but funnily enough, I'm the only one in the family who was like calm, and I was like, my husband was like panicking. What are we gonna do with the computers and like stuff like that? And like wrap it up in plastic and like put it up at the highest peak because there's really nothing we can do about it at the moment. So we just have to go higher on the second floor or something, and just bring it to the second floor and like carry this carry the computer like while it's wrapped. So that's one of the things that I love about Lyric, and it kind of reminds me of myself. And I do wonder, how about you? Which of the characters would you say that you most identify with?
Um, I think again, there's a little bit of me in everyone. Mostly, I think Justin of having that fear and anxiety and dealing with loss and grief. Um, but I also I Lyric. I really enjoyed writing his character because he was a conspiracy theorist of like all these things that could be happen, and he was also the
Yeah.
comic relief, and I like that too. And Nia, it feels like it's hard to pick one character. I would say more so Justin just because of what he's dealing with, but there's a little elements of me in everyone, like with the fears of some of the things they like and dislike, their physical appearance. But more so, I think it would be Justin of knowing that your friends are there with you and wanting to help them, but feeling like you're not equipped to help them. I feel like we all have that sometimes of like, can I do this? Questioning yourselves and questioning everything around you. And I don't like, it's weird. I don't like when things end. Like maybe I can rephrase that to like good things. There are actually shows that I've loved so much that were ending and I've not watched the last couple episodes. Like it's hard for me to say goodbye to things and to people. It's really hard. So even saying goodbye to these characters when I finished writing the book was hard because I was like, no, I mean, yes, it's something positive that ends and they're safe in their home, but saying goodbye to them was really difficult for me. So yeah, I'd have to say Justin, saying goodbye to people, especially people you care about, if you lose them or just ending things, it's hard.
Yeah,
So,
actually, like that's one of the things I love about Justin, and I think that's one of the major things that made him such a sympathetic character. Like you totally understand that why he feels that way, and in some for some, even though I haven't gone through the same thing, I felt the grief that he was like feeling. And in the interestingly, it's a horror book, like yeah, that's what makes it even more interesting is the fact that this is a horror book, but somehow you feel what the
yeah.
characters are feeling. Like and speaking of which, I don't think you're gonna like enjoy watching K dramas like I am because
I might.
they're like set. for
Oh.
16 episodes to 20 episodes. Like most of them, they rarely get like second season.
Mm-hmm.
So you're
Yeah,
probably
that'll
gonna
be
like
hard.
the last 3 episodes or something. That's gonna be
Well,
so hard for you.
if somebody warns me, I have been known to read the ending of things first
Oh,
and then
same,
work my
same.
way back. So I mean, if I feel like okay, they are like it's gonna devastate you. So I'm like, okay, well, let me get the devastation out of the way first, and then I can work my way back from the beginning and start. It's just that I don't know. I'm just bad with goodbyes. It's just something that's another fear of that goodbye. So working through it.
Yeah, I totally get it. Like uh, well, I'm gonna be honest. Like since I was like in a reading slump, I was like trying to do a different way with reading your book. So I didn't check the ending for once in my life. For once in my life, I read it from start to finish and not looking ahead because I
Yeah.
totally get you. Like I want to be like emotionally prepared for what's to
Hmm.
come. And
Hmm.
the thing is, I'm quite glad that I didn't look at the ending first because it was quite a ride. That's all I can say. So if you haven't read the book, you better read it now because you're missing a lot. It was one hell of a ride. Like not just with the fear and all, with the horror aspect of it. It was a ride emotionally as well. Because the interesting thing about the hide and seeker is that while Justin was experiencing all these scary things with the seeker and in the things that are happening with his friends, like disappearing left and right, you also get to see Justin actually feeling what it's like to have like to lose a friend.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I'm so happy like that you were able to like balance it out. And I'm just like really so impressed. Sorry, I'm
Thank
gushing.
you. Thank you. And, and that changed also Z's character changed of how he returned home and also how he dealt with it. And I don't know, like I'm asking everyone else, like for the ending, because my sister she's like, this is not the way I sort of wanted it to. I think she wanted it to be more, I don't know, she thought it was like the happiest of endings, but I don't know if other people in the chat felt the same way of like how things were resolved and some things that were sort of uh, left open. But I think for me, that one moment of when um, they returned and that of him opening his door, which is what I'll just say, him opening his door and then what's coming towards him, of being able to finally release and let something new come in and embracing that was sort of the end. And then the tag was just something different because, Hyde really needed to pay for what he'd done. Like, I mean, he couldn't get off scot free. Like, there was no way that was going to happen.
Yeah,
So I had to
it
add
was.
that.
I love that ending. I
Okay.
totally have loved the ending.
Okay.
Oh, since we only have like time for a few more questions. Here's one from I don't see the name, but how do you find time? Like how do you find creative time to write after you've put in a long day of work?
That's a good question. I tend to, I'm not the best sleeper. So I can write in the middle of the night. So I can get up for a while. When I was on deadline writing this book, I would get up by like 4 or 5 a.m. and write until I had to go to work. And then when I got home from work, I would write until I fell asleep. So while I can't really outline a book very well, I can schedule my time well. So it's like, no, you have to get this chapter done before you can do anything else. So scheduling my time to write, I'm pretty good at. And also, I sort of motivate myself with treats. So I'm like, hey, if you finish this chapter, you can have a piece of chocolate cake. Or hey, if you write this amount of words, you can have an ice cream cone or whatever else. So that's a great food. It's a great motivating factor, especially sweets.
I totally
For
agree.
me. So I just if I schedule it like by the end of this week, you have to have this done, then I won't sleep until I get it done. Like I can make myself do that. Of course, there are days where you just don't feel productive, and even if I'm not writing words on the pages, if I have a general idea or maybe even a line of dialogue, I'll count that as me writing that day. It doesn't have to be paragraph after paragraph, but if you have one really great line that you know your character says and you write that down, then that's writing. Then I've accomplished something for the day. So that's enough for me.
And that's a good way of looking at it. It's kind of like what my friend and I did, because we were both like having difficulty starting a new book. So what we did is like we're gonna like have like a target for the weekend. Just like our target was just 10 words.
Mm-hmm.
So when you reach the 10 words, you feel like you've more than accomplished what you've targeted to do for that weekend. So it
Yeah.
kind of works. I totally get what you mean. And before any oh yeah, we're on the last question. It's Gilbert.
Okay.
He's back. So thank you so much for having us. And we're done, right?
And
If you have
before,
one more question, that's fine. I'm
I
okay.
don't
Oh,
know if
I was like, because I was hoping that Deika would like let us share with us a little bit about her querying journey, like her
oh,
publishing journey. Yeah. So
oh, the querying journey. Okay, so since it was such a long journey and I was querying so many different versions, I would send it out and, it's that painful experience of getting rejections from this and then this agent and this agent, and then the rejections got better. They, they had more detail of like what worked or what didn't work, or, if you revise, send me something more, or, I already have something similar. So I started getting more positive feedback in the rejections. So I took that as a good thing. And for Hide and Seeker, I actually found my agent on a Twitter contest. There's a DV Pit Twitter contest, and I entered that, and I submitted the first 5 pages, and a fellow writer, I won a critique of my first 5 pages. His name is Will Taylor, who's also a great writer. He then asked me to submit it to his agent. So during the Twitter contest, I did submit it. I got several full manuscript requests, but his agent read it, asked me if I would do a couple revisions, and then after that, I signed with her. So I think the querying journey can be different from different people. Mine just happened to be one of the great Twitter contests, and it worked. So I say for any other people querying, just think of every avenue possible for that. And,
yeah,
and before we leave, can I just say hi to everybody and thank you to everybody on this chat who took time out of their Saturday to listen to me ramble on, just who have said such kind and amazing words. I appreciate it so much. I can't even really tell you how much I appreciate all of you like being here and supporting me. I'm beyond like happy, and thank you for all the messages. I have been reading them. That's why my eyes have been over here. So I'm looking at different things too. I really thank you, and appreciate it. And please leave reviews after you've read everything. I would love that. I love all of you too. So thank you very much. I'm sorry.
don't forget
Okay.
to get your copy.
Yes,
You're missing out
absolutely.
half your life if you're not gonna get it.
Well, thank you, Gail. We really appreciate you participating, particularly given the time difference. You're getting up early over there and doing that. That's fantastic of you. And Deika, congratulations. And thank you so much for being a part of a Vroman's author event. I know we'll have more for you in the future. Fingers crossed in person in our event space. So thank you to you both. Everyone, please make sure to purchase a copy of Hide and Seeker. You can see the cover there. Gail's holding it. And if you just click on that, oh, see, there's the physical copy. And just click on that buy button there.
Hasn't arrived yet, so I'm stuck with the ARC, but I'm so gonna like have it on Instagram all over. So
excellent. Yeah, you can just click on buy Hide and Seeker down there at the bottom to support Vroman's bookstore, and that'll take you to our website where you can process that. Like I said before, you can visit Vroman's in person. We're open daily from 10:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. with strict health guidelines in place. And you can visit our website. You can order it there for ship to home or for curbside pickup. So like I said, please support independent bookstores. And thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you,
you, everybody,
thank
to
you,
join
Thank
us.
you for
It
having
was
us.
wonderful. So have a great day, everybody. Thanks for being a part of it.
Get the
All right.
book. Get the book.
Bye. Thank you,
Bye.
everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.